Jake Miller wiped the grease from his hands with an old rag as he walked out of the engineering bay. His shift at New Angeles Space Station had ended early today, and his stomach reminded him that he had skipped lunch again. The corridors buzzed, with activity as humans and aliens moved between shops and offices. Jake loved this place where different species worked together, even if some aliens still looked down on humans. He decided to eat at Cosmos Cafe, the fancy restaurant near the center of the station. Jake knew he looked out of place in his blue work coveralls, but the food was good and he had credits to spend. The hostess, a friendly human woman, seated him at a small table near the back. As Jake studied the menu, loud voices from a nearby table caught his attention. A tall alien with purple skin and sharp features was talking very loudly to a human woman. The alien had the look of a Zenthari, one of the species that thought they were better than everyone else. "Your species is so primitive," the Zenthari said in perfect English but with a tone full of disgust. "Humans waste so much time on feelings and caring for the weak. On my world, we focus on strength and progress." The human woman across from him shifted uncomfortably in her seat. She had short brown hair and kind eyes, but Jake could see she was upset. Her hands were folded tightly in her lap, and she kept looking toward the exit. "I think caring for others shows strength, not weakness," the woman said quietly. The Zenthari laughed, a harsh sound that made other diners look over. "Humans are so soft. You spend resources on broken people who cannot contribute. On Zenthar, we understand that only the strong deserve to survive. Your disabled humans are just genetic failures taking up space." Jake felt his jaw clench. He tried to focus on his menu, but the alien kept talking louder and saying worse things. Other diners were starting to stare and whisper. The human woman looked like she wanted to disappear. "My government only agreed to this cultural exchange program because we need human workers for dangerous jobs," the Zenthari continued. "But spending time with your kind makes me sick. You're all so emotional and weak." That was enough. Jake stood up and walked over to their table. The Zenthari looked up at him with annoyed yellow eyes. "Excuse me," Jake said politely. "I could not help but hear your conversation. I think you might be wrong about humans," the alien sneered. "And what would a maintenance worker know about anything important?" "I know that caring for each other is not weakness," Jake replied. "I know that human technology has helped many species in this galaxy. We created the universal translation systems you are using right now. We developed medical treatments that saved millions of lives across dozens of worlds." The woman watched Jake with surprised interest. The Zenthari stood up, his full height making him tower over Jake. "Human technology is inferior," the alien spat. "Your adaptive devices for the disabled are just expensive toys, a waste of materials and time." Jake smiled. "Those expensive toys helped a Zenthari mining crew last year when their equipment failed. Human adaptive technology kept them alive until rescue ships arrived. The same technology you call wasteful has been adopted by 15 different species, because it works better than anything else." The Zenthari's face turned a darker shade of purple. "You dare to lecture me, human? I am Vextar of the Zenthari Trade Commission. My family owns 3 star systems." "And I'm Jake Miller from the engineering department," Jake said calmly. "My family owns nothing but a small house on Earth. But I know the difference between being strong and being cruel." Other diners had stopped eating to watch the confrontation. The human woman looked embarrassed but also grateful. Vextar grabbed his expensive coat from his chair. "I will not waste more time with primitive beings," Vextar announced loudly. "This date is over. Pay for your own meal, human female. Consider it payment for the lesson about your species' failures." With that, Vextar stormed out of the restaurant. The woman stared at the table full of expensive food and drinks that Vextar had ordered. Jake could see her calculating costs in her head, and her face went pale. Jake sat down in Vextar's empty chair. "Hi, I am Jake. Sorry for interrupting your date." The woman managed a weak smile. "I am Lisa Grant, and thank you for what you said, but you did not need to get involved. This was already a disaster." "Blind date?" Jake asked. Lisa nodded. My friend Carmen thought it would be good for me to meet someone from another culture. She did not mention that Vextar hates humans. Lisa looked at the bill the server had left on the table. I cannot afford all this food, he ordered. Jake signaled the server over. Put everything on my tab, please. Jake, no, Lisa protested. This is too expensive. I can handle it. My treat, Jake said firmly. Besides, that guy ruined your evening. The least I can do is make sure you do, not have to pay for his bad behavior. Lisa looked like she might cry. Why would you do that for a stranger? Jake shrugged. Because helping people is what humans do. At least, it is what we should do. They talked while Lisa picked at her food. She told him she worked as a trauma counselor, helping people recover from accidents and injuries. Jake shared stories about his work fixing machines and creating new devices to help people do their jobs better. I love solving problems, Jake explained. Every broken machine is like a puzzle. You have to figure out what went wrong and how to make it work again. Sometimes the solution is simple, but sometimes you have to completely redesign how something works. Lisa smiled, the first real smile Jake had seen from her all evening. I do something similar with people. Trauma changes how the mind works, but with time and the right support, people can heal and find new ways to live. As they prepared to leave, Lisa thanked Jake again. They exchanged contact information and agreed to meet for coffee later in the week. Walking back to his quarters, Jake thought about the evening. He had expected a quiet dinner alone, but instead he had made a new friend. Jake did not know that this chance meeting would change everything, not just for him and Lisa, but for someone else who needed their help more than they could imagine. 3 days after the disaster at Cosmos Cafe, Jake met Lisa for coffee at a small shop in the station's residential sector. She looked much happier than she had during her terrible date with Vextar. Jake had been thinking about their conversation and was curious to learn more about her work. Tell me about trauma counseling, Jake said as they sat down with their drinks. How do you help people who have been hurt? Lisa stirred her coffee thoughtfully. Every person is different, but trauma usually happens when something terrible occurs that changes how someone sees the world. An accident, an attack, losing someone important. The mind tries to protect itself, but sometimes that protection becomes a prison. Jake nodded. Like when a machine gets damaged and goes into safe mode. It stops working normally to prevent more damage, but then it cannot do what it was designed to do. That is exactly right, Lisa said with surprise. I never thought of it that way, but it is a perfect comparison. My job is to help people find new ways to function after their safe mode gets stuck on. They met several more times over the next 2 weeks. Jake found Lisa easy to talk to, and she seemed genuinely interested in his work. He told her about the adaptive devices he built in his spare time, tools that helped disabled workers do their jobs more easily. I made a voice-controlled welding system for a man who lost his hands in an accident, Jake explained. The station wanted to retire him, but now he is one of our best welders. His work is more precise than most people can do manually. Lisa's eyes lit up. That is amazing. You gave him back his career and his confidence. I just solved an engineering problem, Jake said modestly. He did the hard work of learning to use it and getting back to his life. During their 4th coffee meeting, Lisa seemed troubled about something. She kept starting to speak, and then stopping. Finally, Jake asked what was wrong. There is someone I think you might be able to help, Lisa said slowly. But I am not sure it is a good idea. He is very difficult right now, and I do not want you to get hurt or discouraged. Tell me about him, Jake said. Lisa took a deep breath. His name is Alex Chen. He was a starship captain and now he runs a big technology company called Chen Dynamics. 6 months ago, he was testing a new spacecraft design when something went wrong. The ship crashed, and Alex was paralyzed from the chest down. Jake listened carefully as Lisa continued. 2 crew members were also hurt, but they recovered. Alex blames himself for the accident. He has not left the rehabilitation center since it happened. He refuses to see his business partners, his family, anyone The doctors say he is physically stable, but mentally he has given up. What kind of person was he before the accident? Jake asked. Brilliant, Lisa said immediately. Alex designed spacecraft that were faster and safer than anything other companies made. He was demanding and perfectionist, but people respected him because he was always right about technical things. He cared about his work and his employees. Jake considered this. And now? Now he barely speaks to anyone. He stays in his room with the windows covered. He will not use a wheelchair or try any rehabilitation exercises. The medical staff says he is one of the smartest patients they have ever had, but also the most stubborn. You think I could help him? Jake asked. Lisa hesitated. Alex loves solving technical problems. Before the accident, he would work on spacecraft designs for 16 hours straight without eating or sleeping. Maybe if he had engineering puzzles to think about, it would give his mind something to focus on besides the accident. But you are worried about something, Jake observed. Alex can be very harsh when he is frustrated, Lisa admitted. He has made 3 therapists quit. He told the last one that she was wasting her time on a broken machine that could not be fixed. He might say cruel things to you too. Jake thought about this. He remembered working with other engineers who were brilliant but difficult. People say mean things when they are in pain. I can handle that if it helps him. There is something else, Lisa said. Alex was very successful and wealthy. He might not respect you because you are a mechanic. Some people think that way. Let me worry about that, Jake said. Can you arrange for me to meet him? Lisa looked uncertain. I volunteer at the rehabilitation center 2 days a week. I could bring you as a technical consultant. But Jake, please do not expect too much. Alex has refused to see dozens of people who wanted to help. I understand, Jake said, but everyone deserves a chance to heal. Maybe he just needs to meet the right person at the right time. The next morning, Lisa called Jake with surprising news. I spoke to Dr. Karen Foster, who runs Alex's treatment team. She agreed to let you visit as an adaptive technology specialist. But she warned me that Alex has been especially difficult lately. What happened? Jake asked. His business partners visited yesterday to discuss company decisions. Alex threw them out of his room and told them to sell the company. Dr. Foster says he has not spoken to anyone since then. Jake felt a familiar feeling he got when facing a particularly challenging repair job. Sometimes the most damaged machines required the most patience and creativity to fix. When can we go? This afternoon if you are available, Lisa said. But Jake, promise me you will not take anything he says personally. Alex is in a lot of pain and he strikes out at people who try to help. I promise, Jake said. And Lisa, thank you for trusting me with this. As Jake prepared for the visit, he thought about what Lisa had told him. Alex Chen sounded like someone who had lost more than just the use of his legs. He had lost his sense of purpose, his confidence, and his hope for the future. Jake knew that kind of damage was harder to repair than any machine, but he also knew that the most important repairs were often the most difficult ones. He packed a small bag with some of his simpler adaptive devices and a few mechanical puzzles he had designed. If Alex was as smart as Lisa said, maybe these would interest him enough to start a conversation. Jake had learned that sometimes the best way to help someone was to give them a problem to solve. The Galactic Rehabilitation Center occupied 3 levels of New Angeles Station's medical district. Jake followed Lisa through clean white corridors lined with treatment rooms and therapy equipment. The facility served humans and several alien species with adaptive technology designed for different physiologies. Alex is in the long-term care wing, Lisa explained as they walked. He has been here longer than most patients. Usually, people either recover enough to go home or move to permanent care facilities. Alex just stays. Dr. Karen Foster met them at the nurses' station. She was a middle-aged woman with tired eyes and graying hair. You must be Jake Miller, she said, shaking his hand. Lisa tells me you work with adaptive technology. I design and build devices to help people do their jobs, Jake said. I thought maybe I could show Alex some possibilities for the future. Dr. Foster looked skeptical. Alex has refused to see our best rehabilitation specialists. He will not even try basic wheelchair training. I agreed to this meeting because Lisa has been helpful with other patients, but please do not expect much. They stopped outside room 314. The door was closed and a sign read, "Do not disturb unless emergency." Dr. Foster knocked gently. "Alex, you have visitors," she called. "Lisa is here with a technology consultant." "Go away," came a voice from inside. It sounded tired and angry. "Alex, this is Jake Miller," Lisa said through the door. "He designs adaptive equipment. I thought you might like to meet him." I said, "Go away. I do not need to meet another person who thinks they can fix me." Jake stepped closer to the door. "I am not here to fix you. I just wanted to ask your opinion about some engineering problems I am working on." There was silence for a long moment. Then the door lock clicked open. Alex Chen's room was dimly lit, with the windows covered by heavy curtains. Medical equipment lined one wall, but most of it looked unused. A standard wheelchair sat in the corner, clearly untouched. Alex himself was in the hospital bed, propped up by pillows. He was younger than Jake had expected, maybe 32 or 33, with black hair and intelligent dark eyes. But those eyes were cold and hostile as they fixed on Jake. "Let me guess," Alex said. "Another mechanic who thinks I'm just a broken machine that needs the right parts." Jake looked around the room calmly. "Actually, I was thinking this room could use better lighting. Those LED panels are too harsh. Full-spectrum lighting would be more comfortable and better for your health." Alex blinked, clearly not expecting that response. "What?" "Sorry," Jake said, sitting in the visitor's chair without being invited. "Occupational habit. I see inefficient systems and automatically think about improvements." He looked at Alex directly. "I am Jake Miller. I work in engineering maintenance, but I also design adaptive technology in my spare time. And you think you can inspire me with stories about overcoming disability?" Alex's voice was sharp with sarcasm. "No," Jake said simply. "I think you are probably smarter than me about most things, so I was hoping you might look at some problems I cannot solve." This was clearly not what Alex expected either. He studied Jake suspiciously. "What kind of problems?" Jake pulled a small device from his bag. It looked like a complex 3D puzzle made of interlocking metal pieces. "This is a spatial reasoning challenge I designed. The pieces can only move in specific sequences, and you have to figure out how to reconfigure it into different shapes." Despite himself, Alex looked interested. "What is the point?" "I use puzzles like this to test adaptive interface designs," Jake explained. "People with different disabilities need different ways to interact with complex systems. If someone can solve this puzzle, I know their spatial reasoning and problem-solving skills are good enough for advanced equipment." Alex stared at the puzzle. "Show me." Jake demonstrated how the pieces could move, then scrambled it back to the starting position. There are 12 different final configurations possible. Most engineers can find 3 or 4. The record is 8, set by a Vulnari mathematics professor. "Vulnari are supposed to be good at spatial puzzles," Alex said, his interest clearly growing. "They are," Jake agreed. "But I think human minds work differently. We see patterns they miss." He placed the puzzle on Alex's bedside table. "I have been trying to figure out why some humans do better than others at this kind of problem." Alex reached for the puzzle, then stopped. "Why are you really here?" Jake met his eyes honestly. "Lisa told me about your accident. She thought maybe having some engineering problems to think about might help. But mostly, I came because I heard you designed some amazing spacecraft, and I wanted to meet the person who created them." "You know about my ships?" Alex asked, surprised. "Chen Dynamics builds the best civilian spacecraft in this sector," Jake said. "I studied your engine efficiency improvements in technical school. The way you integrated the power systems was brilliant." For the first time since Jake had entered the room, Alex's hostile expression softened slightly. "Those designs are obsolete now. My last ship crashed and nearly killed 3 people." "Accidents happen," Jake said quietly. "Even with the best designs. That does not make the good work you did before worth less." Alex was quiet for a long moment. Then he picked up the puzzle and began examining it closely. His fingers moved over the pieces, testing how they fit together. Jake could see the engineers, mind working, analyzing the mechanical relationships. "This is more complex than it looks," Alex said. "Most good puzzles are," Jake replied. "The interesting challenges are never as simple as they seem." Lisa had been watching this exchange quietly from her chair near the door. She caught Jake's eye and smiled slightly. This was more conversation than Alex had had with anyone in weeks. "I should let you examine that puzzle properly," Jake said, standing up. "I have some other projects to work on, but I could come back in a few days to see what you think." Alex looked up from the puzzle. "What other projects?" "Adaptive workstation design mostly. I am trying to create better interfaces for people who cannot use standard controls." Jake paused. "Actually, your opinion would be valuable. You understand complex systems better than most people." "You want my opinion?" Alex sounded genuinely surprised. "If you are willing to give it," Jake said. "Good engineering advice is hard to find." After they left Alex's room, Dr. Foster walked with them back to the main corridor. "That was remarkable," she said. "Alex has not shown interest in anything for months. What did you do differently?" Jake shrugged. "I treated him like an engineer instead of a patient. Sometimes people need to be valued for what they can still do, not fixed for what they cannot do." "Will you come back?" Lisa asked. Jake nodded. "If he wants me to. I have a feeling Alex Chen has a lot more to offer than he thinks he does." Jake returned to the rehabilitation center 3 days later, expecting to find Alex still working on the puzzle. Instead, he found 12 different geometric shapes arranged neatly on the bedside table. Alex was sitting up in bed, looking more alert than Jake had seen him before. "You found all 12 configurations," Jake said, genuinely impressed. "It took me 2 days," Alex replied. There was a hint of satisfaction in his voice. The key was realizing that some pieces have hidden connection points. Most people probably miss those. "Most people do," Jake confirmed, "including me when I first designed it. I only found the hidden connections by accident." Alex looked pleased with himself. "I also figured out why some humans might do better than others at this kind of puzzle. We approach problems differently than most species. Humans look for creative solutions instead of just logical ones." Jake sat down, excited to hear Alex's analysis. "Explain that." "Vulnari are very logical," Alex said, his voice becoming stronger as he warmed to the topic. "They would approach this puzzle systematically, testing every possible combination in order. But humans jump around, trying random combinations that feel right. Sometimes intuition leads us to solutions that pure logic would take much longer to find." "That is exactly what I was trying to figure out," Jake said. "I want to design adaptive interfaces that work with human intuition instead of against it." Alex leaned forward, interested. "What kind of interfaces?" Jake pulled out his tablet and showed Alex pictures of various devices he had built. "This is a workstation for a woman who lost her arms in an industrial accident. She controls it with eye movements and voice commands. But the real innovation is how it predicts what she wants to do next." "Predictive algorithms?" Alex asked, studying the images. "Better than that. The system learns her work patterns and prepares tools before she asks for them. It is like having an assistant who knows what you need before you know you need it." Alex was quiet for a moment, thinking. "That is brilliant. Most adaptive technology just replaces lost functions. You are enhancing human capabilities." "Exactly," Jake said. "I think disability often forces people to find better ways to do things. Then everyone benefits from those improvements." "Can I see the technical specifications?" Alex asked. Jake hesitated. "Are you sure? I know you have been avoiding work-related things." "This is not work," Alex said firmly. "This is interesting." For the next hour, Jake and Alex discussed the technical details of various adaptive systems. Alex asked sharp questions and offered several suggestions for improvements. His engineering instincts were clearly intact, and his knowledge of advanced systems was impressive. "You should patent some of these designs," Alex said finally. "Several of these innovations could be adapted for general use, not just disability applications." "I never thought about patents," Jake admitted. "I just build things to help people." That is admirable. But if you want to help more people, you need funding for research and manufacturing. Patents can provide that funding. Dr. Foster stopped by during their discussion and was amazed to find Alex sitting up, engaged, and talking enthusiastically about engineering. Later, she told Lisa that this was the most positive change they had seen in any long-term patient. Jake began visiting Alex every few days, always bringing new technical challenges or design problems to discuss. Alex started asking about current projects at Chen Dynamics, though he still refused to see his business partners. The breakthrough came during Jake's 6th visit. Alex had been working on a design problem Jake had brought him: how to improve wheelchair navigation in zero-gravity environments. The problem with current wheelchairs is that they are designed for ground-based movement, Alex explained, sketching on a tablet. In space, you need three-dimensional mobility with precise position control. Most space stations use handholds and guide cables, Jake said. That works for temporary visits, but what about people who live and work in space permanently? Alex's eyes were bright with excitement. Look at this design. Alex showed Jake a sketch of a sleek mobility device that looked nothing like a traditional wheelchair. It used small thruster jets for movement and gyroscopic stabilizers for orientation control. This is incredible, Jake said, studying the design. Have you ever seen anything like this before? No, but I know it would work. The principles are sound. Alex paused. Jake, could we build a prototype? Build it? Jake was surprised by the suggestion. I mean, could it be built? Theoretically? Jake looked at the design more carefully. Most of these components exist already. The thrusters, the gyroscopes, the control systems. They would just need to be integrated differently. He looked up at Alex. Why do you ask? Alex was quiet for a long moment. I have been thinking about what you said, about disability leading to better solutions. What if we could design mobility devices that are not just adaptive, but actually superior to what normal people use? You want to work on this project? Jake asked carefully. I want to try, Alex said, but I would need to see your workshop, understand what tools and materials are available. He hesitated. I have not left this room since I arrived here. We could start small, Jake suggested. Maybe just a video call to show you the workshop? Alex nodded. I would like that. That evening, Jake set up a video connection between his workshop and Alex's room. Alex was fascinated by the equipment and materials Jake had accumulated, asking detailed questions about manufacturing capabilities and precision tolerances. You have everything we would need for a basic prototype, Alex said with growing excitement. The anti-gravity generators alone would be enough to test the core concept. Alex, Jake said gently, if we are going to work together on this, eventually you would need to come to the workshop. Are you ready for that? Alex's expression became uncertain. I do not know. I have not been in a wheelchair yet. I have not even tried to transfer out of this bed. What if we take it one step at a time? Jake suggested. No pressure, no schedule. Just see how it goes. Alex was quiet for several minutes. Then he said, Jake, can I ask you something? Of course. Why are you doing this? You barely know me, and I have not been very nice to you or anyone else. Jake thought about his answer. Because I think you have important work to do. The accident did not change your mind or your abilities. Maybe it just changed how you need to use them. Alex stared at his hands. What if I cannot do it? What if I try to leave this room and just fall apart? Then we figure out a different approach, Jake said simply. But Alex, you solved that puzzle faster than anyone ever has. You designed a revolutionary mobility device in one afternoon. I do not think you have lost your abilities. I think you have just been afraid to use them. For the first time since the accident, Alex smiled. It was small and uncertain, but it was real. When could we start building? Whenever you're ready, Jake replied. But first, maybe we should get you comfortable with the idea of leaving this room. Alex nodded slowly. I think I would like to try. 2 weeks later, Alex sat in a wheelchair for the first time since his accident. His hands shook as he gripped the wheels, and sweat beaded on his forehead despite the cool air in the rehabilitation center's corridor. Jake walked beside him while Lisa followed a few steps behind. "Take your time," Jake said quietly. "There is no rush." Alex had spent the previous week working with physical therapists to build up his arm strength and learn transfer techniques. The process had been frustrating and exhausting, but he pushed through it with the same determination he had once applied to spacecraft design. "I feel like I am learning to walk again, except with my arms," Alex said, breathing hard from the effort of moving the wheelchair. "In a way you are," Jake replied. "But you are also learning something new. Walking is just one way to move through the world." They made their way slowly through the station corridors toward Jake's workshop. Alex had to stop several times to rest and adjust his position. The simple journey that would have taken 5 minutes walking took nearly 20 minutes in the wheelchair. "I never realized how many barriers there are," Alex said as they waited for an elevator. "These corridors were not designed for wheelchairs." "Most places were not," Jake agreed. "That is one reason why adaptive technology is so important. We have to make the world work for everyone, not just people who fit the standard design." Jake's workshop was located in a converted storage bay near the engineering section. The space was cluttered with workbenches, tools, and half-finished projects. Adaptive devices in various stages of completion filled shelves and tables. Alex looked around in amazement. "This is incredible. You built all of this yourself?" "Over several years," Jake said. "Most of it started as personal projects, but word got around and people started asking for help with specific problems." Jake showed Alex around the workshop, explaining how different tools worked and what materials he used for various projects. Alex's engineering background helped him understand the technical aspects quickly, but he was most impressed by the practical creativity in Jake's solutions. "This communication device for a nonverbal patient is genius," Alex said, examining a small tablet with specialized software. "The predictive text system learns from brain pattern analysis." "Basic neural interface technology," Jake explained. "Nothing too advanced, but it lets people communicate much faster than traditional methods." Alex spent an hour examining different projects, asking technical questions, and offering suggestions for improvements. Jake could see him relaxing as he focused on the engineering challenges instead of his own limitations. "Are you ready to work on our mobility device?" Jake asked. Alex nodded eagerly. "I have been thinking about the design all week. I have some ideas for improving the control system." They spent the next 3 hours working on the prototype. Alex's wheelchair positioned him at the perfect height to work on the device's control circuits, while Jake handled the mechanical assembly. Their collaboration was natural and efficient, with Alex's theoretical knowledge complementing Jake's practical skills. "Hand me that micro-welder," Alex said, deep in concentration as he worked on a circuit board. Jake passed him the tool, then realized what had just happened. "Alex, you just asked for a tool without thinking about it." Alex looked up confused. "So? You are working, really working. You are not thinking about your disability or the accident. You are just solving problems and building things." Alex paused, considering this. "You are right. For the past few hours, I felt like myself again." He looked down at the device they were building. "I had forgotten how much I love creating new technology." "That part of you never went away," Jake said. "It was just waiting for the right project to wake it up." As they continued working, Alex began talking about ideas for other adaptive technologies. His mind raced from one possibility to another, each more innovative than the last. "What if we designed a full workspace that adapts to different disabilities automatically?" Alex suggested. "Smart furniture that adjusts height and position, tools that configure themselves based on user needs, environmental controls that respond to voice, gesture, or neural commands. That would revolutionize adaptive workplaces," Jake said, excited by the possibilities. "We could start with Chen Dynamics as a test site," Alex said, then stopped. "I mean, if I ever go back to running the company." "Do you want to go back?" Jake asked. Alex was quiet for a moment. "I want to do meaningful work again. I am not sure if that means going back to my old job or doing something new." Their conversation was interrupted when the mobility device they had been building suddenly hummed to life. The anti-gravity generators activated smoothly, and the control systems responded perfectly to Alex's touch. "It works," Alex said with wonder. "It actually works." Jake helped Alex transfer from his wheelchair to the new mobility device. The transition was smooth, and within moments, Alex was moving freely around the workshop. The device responded to his movements intuitively, allowing him to navigate between workbenches and reach tools on high shelves. "This is amazing," Alex said, his voice filled with joy. "I feel like I am flying." For the first time since his accident, Alex laughed with pure happiness. The sound filled the workshop and brought tears to Jake's eyes. Lisa, who had been quietly observing from near the door, smiled widely. "Jake, this changes everything," Alex said, moving effortlessly through the space. "If we can do this, we can redesign mobility for anyone who needs it. This device is not just adaptive technology, it is enhancement technology." "What do you mean?" Jake asked. "I can reach higher and move faster than I could when I was walking," Alex explained, demonstrating the device's capabilities. "In zero gravity, I would be more maneuverable than someone using legs for movement. We have not just replaced a lost function, we have created a superior one." Jake watched Alex navigate the workshop with growing confidence and skill. The transformation was remarkable. The bitter, hopeless man from the hospital room had been replaced by someone who radiated enthusiasm and purpose. "Alex," Jake said, "I think you just proved something important." "What is that?" "Humans do not just adapt to challenges. We use them to become better than we were before." Alex stopped the mobility device and looked at Jake seriously. "I want to work with you on this technology, not just as a hobby, but as a real business. I think we could change how the galaxy thinks about disability and human capability." "Are you sure?" Jake asked. "It would mean major changes to your life and your company." Alex smiled, the first completely genuine smile Jake had seen from him. "I have never been more sure of anything. The accident took away my legs, but it gave me a new purpose. I want to use everything I learned about advanced systems to help people like me, and I want to do it with someone who understands that the best solutions come from seeing possibilities instead of limitations." Jake felt a warmth in his chest that had nothing to do with the workshop's heating system. "Partners?" "Partners," Alex agreed, extending his hand. As they shook hands, both men knew that this moment marked the beginning of something much larger than either of them had imagined. 6 weeks after Alex first visited Jake's workshop, their partnership had grown into something neither man had expected. Alex had moved out of the rehabilitation center into a specially adapted apartment near the workshop. Their prototype mobility device had evolved into 3 different models, each designed for specific environments and needs. Jake found himself looking forward to their daily work sessions more than anything else in his life. Alex's brilliant mind and perfectionist nature pushed Jake to create better designs than he had ever imagined possible. More than that, Jake enjoyed Alex's company. They talked easily about everything from technical problems to personal dreams. "The zero-gravity model needs better rotational control," Alex said, adjusting settings on their latest prototype. They were testing it in the station's low-gravity recreation area during off-peak hours. "Try the gyroscopic stabilizers," Jake suggested, watching Alex navigate through a complex obstacle course they had set up. Alex made the adjustment and immediately moved more smoothly through a series of tight turns. "Perfect. This feels completely natural now." Jake smiled as he watched Alex work. Over the past weeks, Alex had regained his confidence and natural leadership abilities. He had also started taking better care of himself, eating regularly, and even joking with the medical staff during his checkups. "Jake, I want to show this to my business partners," Alex said as he completed the obstacle course. "Chen Dynamics could manufacture these devices for commercial sale." "Are you ready for that?" Jake asked. Alex had been avoiding contact with his company for months. "I think so. I have been thinking about what I want Chen Dynamics to become. Instead of just building spacecraft for wealthy clients, we could focus on technology that helps people live better lives." Jake felt proud of Alex's decision, but also nervous. What if they do not like the new direction? Then they can find a new CEO, Alex said firmly. I own controlling interest in the company. If they want to stay, they work on projects I believe in. That afternoon, Alex called a meeting with Chen Dynamics Board of Directors. Jake attended as Alex's technical partner, though he felt out of place in the corporate conference room filled with expensive furniture and holographic displays. The board members were clearly shocked by Alex's appearance. They had last seen him as a broken man who wanted nothing to do with the company. Now he sat confidently in his advanced mobility device, radiating the authority and vision that had made Chen Dynamics successful. I want to shift our focus to adaptive and enhancement technologies, Alex announced without preamble. We will still build spacecraft, but our primary mission will be creating devices that expand human capabilities. Board member Helen Carter spoke first. Alex, we are glad to see you recovering, but this is a major strategic change. Our spacecraft division is very profitable. It will remain profitable, Alex replied, but we have the opportunity to pioneer an entirely new market. Every species in the galaxy could benefit from enhancement technology. Jake demonstrated their mobility devices, while Alex explained the technical innovations and market potential. The board asked sharp questions about manufacturing costs, patent protection, and competition from established medical device companies. The real advantage is that we are not thinking like a medical company, Alex explained. We are creating consumer products that happen to help disabled people. The market for enhancement technology includes everyone, not just people with medical needs. By the end of the meeting, the board had agreed to fund prototype development and market research. Jake was amazed by Alex's ability to convince skeptical business people to support his vision. You were incredible in there, Jake told Alex as they left the conference room. It felt good to be back in control of something important, Alex replied. But I could not have done it without you. Your designs made this possible. Their success brought them closer together. They began spending evenings in Alex's apartment, working on designs and talking about their plans for the future. Jake found himself staying later and later, reluctant to end their conversations. One evening, while they were reviewing patent applications, Alex looked up from his tablet. Jake, can I ask you something personal? Of course. Have you ever been in love? Jake was surprised by the question. Once, a few years ago, it did not work out. Why do you ask? Alex hesitated. I have been thinking about what I want from life now. Before the accident, I was completely focused on work. I never made time for relationships or personal connections. And now? Jake asked quietly. Now I realize that the work only matters if you have people to share it with. People who understand what you are trying to accomplish and why it is important. Jake felt his heart rate increase. He had been having similar thoughts, but had not known how to express them. Alex, are you saying what I think you are saying? Alex moved his mobility device closer to Jake's chair. I am saying that I care about you, more than just as a business partner or friend. You saved my life in ways that have nothing to do with technology. Jake reached out and took Alex's hand. I care about you too. I think I have for weeks, but I was afraid to say anything. Afraid of what? Alex asked. Afraid that you might not feel the same way. Afraid of complicating our working relationship. Afraid that someone as successful and brilliant as you could not really be interested in a station mechanic. Alex squeezed Jake's hand. Jake, you are the most creative and compassionate person I have ever met. You saw possibilities in me when I could not see them myself. You treated me like a whole person when everyone else saw me as a patient to be fixed. Their first kiss was tentative and gentle, but it felt like the most natural thing in the world. When they separated, both men were smiling. So what happens now? Jake asked. Now we keep building amazing things together, Alex said. But we also build a life together if you want that. Jake's answer was another kiss, deeper and more confident than the first. Their relationship developed naturally over the following weeks. They moved in together, combining Alex's apartment with Jake's smaller quarters. Their professional partnership became even stronger as their personal bond deepened. Lisa noticed the change immediately when she visited their workshop. You two look happy, she said, with a knowing smile. We are. Alex replied, not bothering to hide his feelings. I am glad, Lisa said sincerely. You both deserve happiness. As their romantic relationship grew, Jake and Alex continued working on adaptive technology projects. Word of their innovations had spread throughout the station, and they received requests for custom devices from dozens of species. We need more space, Alex said one day as they looked around their increasingly crowded workshop. Chen Dynamics has manufacturing facilities, Jake pointed out. I was thinking bigger than that, Alex said with a mysterious smile. What if we started our own company? Something focused entirely on adaptive and enhancement technology? Jake considered this. It would be a big risk. The best innovations always are, Alex replied. Besides, I think we make a pretty good team. Looking at Alex's confident smile and thinking about everything they had accomplished together, Jake could not disagree. What would we call it? Adaptive solutions, Alex said immediately. Because every challenge has a solution if you approach it with the right perspective. I like it, Jake said. When do we start? How about right now? Alex suggested, pulling Jake into his arms for a kiss that tasted like the future. 3 months after founding Adaptive Solutions, Jake and Alex received a message that changed everything. The communication came through official diplomatic channels, bearing the seal of the Galactic Council. This has to be a mistake, Jake said, reading the message for the third time. Alex studied the holographic document floating above their conference table. It is real. The Council wants me to address the full assembly about adaptive technology and accessibility rights. Lisa, who had joined Adaptive Solutions as their head of user experience and counseling services, looked up from her own copy of the invitation. This is unprecedented. No human has ever been invited to speak to the full Galactic Council about technological innovation. The invitation had come after their adaptive technology demonstrations had spread across multiple star systems. News reports and technical journals throughout the galaxy had featured stories about human innovations that were revolutionizing how different species approached disability and enhancement. The Xanthari Ministry of Technology specifically requested your participation, Alex noted, pointing to a section of the document. Apparently, their mining operations have adopted our zero-gravity mobility systems for all workers, not just disabled ones. Jake laughed. Remember Vextar from that terrible date? I wonder if he knows his government is now praising human technology. Actually, he does, Lisa said with a grin. I got a personal apology message from him last week. He asked permission to license our designs for Xanthari commercial use. The invitation specified that Alex would have 1 hour to present to representatives from 47 different species. The topic was Adaptive Technology as Universal Enhancement, the Human Approach to Inclusive Innovation. Jake, you have to present with me, Alex said firmly. This technology was your vision first. I just helped refine the engineering. Jake felt overwhelmed by the scope of the opportunity. Alex, you are the one with business experience and public speaking skills. I am just a mechanic who builds things. You are the mechanic who proved that caring for others leads to innovation that benefits everyone, Alex corrected. That is exactly the message the galaxy needs to hear. Over the next 2 weeks, they prepared their presentation with help from Lisa and a team of consultants. The challenge was explaining complex technical concepts to an audience that included species with completely different cognitive processes and cultural values. We need to focus on practical benefits, Lisa suggested during one of their planning sessions. Show them how adaptive technology has improved efficiency and safety across multiple applications. Alex had compiled impressive statistics. Our mobility systems have reduced workplace injuries by 60% in zero-gravity environments. The neural interface communication devices have improved productivity in multi-species teams by 35%. Even the simple environmental control adaptations have cut energy costs by 20% on stations that implemented them. But we also need to address the cultural resistance, Jake added. Some species still see adaptive technology as a sign of weakness or genetic inferiority. The breakthrough in their presentation strategy came when Alex suggested focusing on enhancement rather than adaptation. We do not present these as devices for disabled people. We present them as improvements that make everyone more capable. On the day of their presentation, Jake and Alex traveled to the Galactic Council chambers on Nexus Prime, the diplomatic capital of the galaxy. The massive amphitheater could hold representatives from thousands of worlds, though today only the core council members were present. Jake felt nervous as they entered the chamber, but Alex appeared completely calm and confident. He moved through the space in his latest mobility device prototype, which had been updated with diplomatic protocols and translation systems. "Honored representatives," Alex began, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustic systems. "I am Alex Chen, and this is Jake Miller. We are here to discuss how human approaches to adaptive technology can benefit all galactic civilizations." Jake took over the technical demonstration, showing how their devices worked and explaining the engineering principles behind them. He had practiced extensively, but speaking to alien dignitaries still felt surreal. The key insight from human adaptive technology is that limitations often reveal opportunities for improvement, Jake explained, as he demonstrated a zero-gravity mobility system. "When we design for people with different abilities, we discover better ways for everyone to interact with their environment." The response from the council was immediately positive. Representatives asked thoughtful questions about implementation, costs, compatibility with different physiologies, and potential applications for their own worlds. Ambassador Kethlar of the Volnari Confederation spoke first during the question period. "These innovations demonstrate remarkable efficiency improvements. Why has my species not developed similar solutions?" Alex answered diplomatically. "Every species approaches problems based on their cultural values and cognitive strengths. Humans tend to focus on individual needs and emotional connections, which leads us to notice problems that other species might consider unimportant." "You are suggesting that human emotional responses are actually an advantage in technological development?" asked Representative Zixara from the Andromedan Republic. "Absolutely," Jake replied. "Our concern for individuals who struggle with standard systems forces us to find creative solutions. Those solutions often turn out to be better for everyone." The most challenging question came from the Zenthari delegation. "Your species claims that caring for the weak makes you stronger. How do you respond to the argument that resources spent on non-productive individuals reduce overall efficiency?" Alex handled this question with careful precision. "Our data shows the opposite. Societies that invest in adaptive technology and inclusive design consistently outperform those that do not. When you give everyone the tools they need to contribute, total productivity increases dramatically." The presentation concluded with a demonstration of their latest innovation, a workspace that automatically adapted to any user's physical capabilities and cognitive preferences. The system could accommodate humans, Zenthari, Volnari, and a dozen other species seamlessly. After 2 hours of questions and discussion, the Council voted unanimously to establish the first galactic accessibility standards, with human adaptive technology serving as the baseline for inclusive design across all member worlds. Ambassador Kethlar announced the decision. "The Council recognizes that the human approach to adaptive technology represents a fundamental advancement in galactic civilization. We hereby establish the Universal Accessibility Protocol, based on principles developed by Adaptive Solutions." As they left the chamber, Jake felt stunned by what had just happened. "Did we just change galactic policy?" "We just proved that human values have practical benefits," Alex replied, squeezing Jake's hand. "Caring for each other is not weakness, it is intelligence." Lisa met them in the Diplomatic Quarters Communication Center, where messages were already arriving from across the galaxy. 43 governments want licensing agreements. The Interstellar Medical Association wants to partner with us on research. And Jake, you have been invited to speak at the Universal Engineering Conference next year. Jake looked at the flood of opportunities and felt overwhelmed. This is all happening so fast. Alex put his arm around Jake's shoulders. "We started with one puzzle and one broken man in a hospital room. Look where it led us." "Where do we go from here?" Jake asked. "Wherever the problems are," Alex said with a smile. "There is a whole galaxy full of challenges that need creative solutions. 1 year after their presentation to the Galactic Council, Jake and Alex stood in the expanded headquarters of Adaptive Solutions, watching news reports from across the galaxy. The Universal Accessibility Protocol had been implemented on over 200 worlds, and human adaptive technology had become the standard for inclusive design throughout known space. The Rigelian shipyards report a 40% increase in productivity since implementing adaptive workstation technology, the news anchor announced. What began as accommodations for disabled workers has revolutionized manufacturing efficiency for all employees. Lisa joined them in front of the large display screen, carrying a cup of coffee and looking pleased. The latest statistics just came in from the Council Monitoring Committee. Implementation of our accessibility standards has reduced workplace accidents by 55% across all member species. Jake shook his head in amazement. Sometimes I still cannot believe this all started because I walked into a restaurant at the wrong time. The right time, Alex corrected, moving closer in his sleek mobility device. Everything that happened was exactly when it needed to happen. Their company had grown to employ over 300 people from 15 different species, all working on adaptive and enhancement technologies. The original workshop had been expanded into a full research and manufacturing complex that took up an entire level of New Angeles Station. Speaking of timing, Lisa said with a mischievous smile, there is someone here to see you both. Vextar entered the room, looking uncomfortable but determined. The Zenthari businessman who had been so cruel during Lisa's disaster date now worked as a technology liaison for his government's accessibility programs. Jake Miller, Alex Chen, Vextar said formally. I come with a request from the Zenthari High Council. What can we do for you? Alex asked politely. Vextar straightened his shoulders. My government wishes to establish a permanent research partnership with Adaptive Solutions. We offer full funding for a new facility on Zenthar Prime, plus access to our most advanced manufacturing systems. Jake and Alex exchanged glances. This was the largest partnership offer they had received, but it also came with complications. Why the change of heart? Jake asked directly. A year ago, your people considered human adaptive technology to be wasteful and primitive. Vextar's purple skin darkened with what Jake had learned was the Zenthari equivalent of embarrassment. We were wrong. The productivity improvements from your technologies have exceeded all projections. More importantly, we have learned that caring for all citizens, regardless of physical capabilities, creates stronger societies. And personally? Alex asked. Vextar looked even more uncomfortable. I owe you both an apology. My behavior during that dinner was inexcusable. I spoke from ignorance and prejudice. You showed me that strength comes from helping others, not from dismissing them. Lisa stepped forward. Vextar has been working with Zenthari disability rights groups for 6 months. He personally funded the adaptation of 3 major government buildings to accommodate citizens with mobility limitations. It is a small beginning, Vextar said humbly, but I hope to do more. Working with your company would help me understand how to implement these changes properly. Jake considered the offer. We would need guarantees that all our technologies remain available to every species, not just Zenthari. Of course, Vextar agreed quickly. The High Council understands that restricting access would violate the Universal Accessibility Protocol. Alex nodded approvingly. Then we would be honored to work with you. Welcome to the team. As Vextar left to finalize the partnership agreements, Jake reflected on the changes of the past year. Their success had brought opportunities he never could have imagined, but it had also strengthened his relationship with Alex and Lisa. There is something else we need to discuss, Alex said, his tone becoming serious. Jake looked at him with concern. What is wrong? Alex smiled. Nothing is wrong. Everything is right. That is why I want to ask you something important. Alex moved his mobility device to the center of the room, then activated a program Jake had never seen before. Suddenly, small, anti-gravity fields lifted Alex up and supported him in a standing position. Jake gasped in surprise. You have been working on that in secret? Jake asked. For 3 months, Alex admitted. I wanted to be able to stand for this moment. Alex, reached into his jacket and pulled out a small device that looked like one of their adaptive technologies. When he activated it, a ring floated in the air between them, suspended by precisely controlled gravity fields. "Jake Miller," Alex said, his voice strong and clear. "You walked into my life when I thought everything was over. You showed me that being broken does not mean being worthless. You helped me find a new purpose and taught me what love really means." Jake felt tears forming in his eyes as he realized what was happening. "Will you marry me?" Alex asked, his own voice breaking with emotion. Jake stepped forward and took the floating ring, which settled into his palm with perfect precision. "Yes," he said simply. "Of course, yes." The ring was beautiful, incorporating adaptive technology that would adjust to Jake's finger size and body temperature automatically. But more than that, it represented everything they had built together: innovation, love, and the belief that every challenge could be solved with enough creativity and care. As they kissed, surrounded by the technology they had created and the life they had built, Jake thought about the journey that had brought them here. It had started with a terrible blind date, a closed hospital room door, and two people who needed each other more than they knew. "When should we have the wedding?" Jake asked when they separated. "As soon as possible," Alex replied. "I want to start the next chapter of our lives." Lisa, who had been watching from nearby, wiped tears from her eyes. "I would be honored to help plan everything, and I have the perfect venue in mind." "Where?" both men asked simultaneously. "Cosmos Cafe," Lisa said with a grin, "where this whole story began." 3 months later, Jake and Alex were married in a ceremony that brought together beings from across the galaxy. The restaurant had been transformed with adaptive decorations that accommodated the sensory preferences of dozens of different species. Alex stood for the ceremony using his adaptive support system, while Jake wore a specially designed suit that incorporated subtle technology to help him move gracefully in the formal setting. Their vows focused on partnership, innovation, and the promise to keep solving problems together. The reception featured food from 40 different worlds and music that had been adapted for the hearing ranges of all attending species. Representatives from the Galactic Council attended, along with workers from Adaptive Solutions, patients whose lives had been changed by their technology, and family members from Earth. As they danced their first dance as a married couple, Alex, using his mobility device while Jake moved beside him, the entire room watched in appreciation. The technology allowed them to move together flawlessly, turning their different physical capabilities into a graceful partnership. "Any regrets?" Alex whispered as they swayed to the music. Jake looked around the room filled with friends from dozens of species, all celebrating the love story that had grown from a chance encounter and a shared belief in human potential. "Only one," Jake said with a smile. "What is that?" "I wish I had walked into that disaster date even sooner." Alex laughed, the sound bright and joyful. "We found each other exactly when we were supposed to. Everything else was just the universe, making sure we were ready." As the music played and their friends celebrated around them, Jake and Alex knew that their greatest innovations were still ahead of them. Together they would continue to prove that humanity's greatest strength was not any single technology or achievement, but their refusal to give up on anyone or anything that could be helped. The mechanic had walked into a blind date disaster and found love. The Paralyzed CEO had discovered that his smile could return even brighter than before, and the galaxy had learned that sometimes the most important innovations come from the simple human belief that everyone deserves a chance to thrive.